green light means that it's on, so. Yeah, thank you, son. Ezekiel. Does anybody know what I started this year with as far as ministry, as far as messages? Okay. Then I went to Ezekiel chapter 37, or 36, excuse me. And I want you to turn there to Ezekiel 36, and I'm just going to read some of the things that I shared with you about. This is to bring us back to where. In verse number 8, O mountains of Israel, you will put forth your branches and bear your fruit for my people Israel. Listen to this, for they will soon come. Y'all calm down just a little bit. Don't get too excited about that. They soon will come. If you remember, I said God was making preparation for that day. And you will be cultivated and sown. Isn't it amazing that nature desires to fulfill its purpose? Think about it. Nature desires to fulfill its purpose. Trees, plants, grass, animals, the purpose is to worship the Lord and to serve him the way he's created for them to do. And it says, I will turn to you, and you will be cultivated and sown. I will multiply, everybody say multiply. Multiply men on you, all the house of Israel, all of its, and the cities will be inhabited, and waste places will be rebuilt. I can't help but to just get excited when I read things like that, because what was wasteland was never God's intent. But he says even though it has become that, he's getting ready to change what was desolate back to a place of fruitfulness. Amen to that. All I can say is, God, go on and do it. I will multiply on you men and beasts, and they will increase and be fruitful. And I will cause you to be inhabited as you were formerly, and you'll treat, and I'll treat you, no, and will treat you better, 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 better. Sound like a broken record, but better than at first. So get the picture. He said, when my people who are in exile come back and inhabit the land, I'm going to treat you better then than I did at first. And what did he do at first? He was a God to them, and he blessed them and gave them land that they didn't work, houses that they didn't build. He gave them all of these things. They were his chosen people. They were the apple of his eye. And he blessed them abundantly. But now he said, I'm going to treat you better now than I did at first. Is this mic on? Has it been so long that we have been in the presence where you can say amen? Somebody needs to say amen and shout glory to God for that. Excuse me, I'm not supposed to move too far here. But how can that not be exciting to you when you realize that what God has for you and I after the pandemic is better than what he had before the pandemic? Man. Then you'll know that I am the Lord. But not only will we know it, didn't I just give a testimony that blew your mind financially of how God is blessed and how that all these things that we have planned are coming to pass? Doesn't that just excite you and place you on the edge of your seat, ready to jump for joy because of what he's doing? Better than at first. Better. Look at your neighbor and say better. And better, better, better. Better, 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 better. Better, better, better. And I understand what better means. Don't you understand what better means? If he was good to us then, he's going to be much more gooder. Put that in your book and teach it there. Better, better. Then you will know that I am God. Does he have to do things like that to prove himself to people? Many times, yes. But those of us that love him, we know who he is. And we say, I don't deserve what you're doing. I don't deserve anything better. Just let me know you. Just let me be close to you. Just let me hug on you. You know? And that's what love does, guys. I found out that I can cook for myself. I mean, this is no big deal. I mean, I found out that I can survive. So whether she cooks another meal for me or not, it doesn't matter. I just want to be with her. What you're doing because of who she is. And I've promised her my love. I've chosen her as my love. And it's now my responsibility to make sure she understands that she's my love. But that's the way God is. So whether he gives me nothing else, but I know he can't help but to give because he is a good father. He's a good father, and he wants to pour his blessings out. I got to quit preaching and get on to the subject here. You will know that I am the Lord. And you will, will cause men, my people Israel, to walk on you. Sure she understands, and to possess you, so that you will come or become their inheritance and never again bereave them of children. He's talking to the land. He's talking to the land. They will walk on you. What's the ground for? Get on to the subject. To give us food, shelter, to give us things like that, and for us to walk on. Now turn to chapter 37, verse 1, real quickly. Then I'm going to read this. Then Scott's going to play a song for you. Are you ready? Here we go. Verse 1, chapter 37. It says this: the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley, and it was full of bones. Turn to chapter bones. A little bit later it says those bones were very dry. What did that mean? Bones in a valley. It just simply means they were one time a lot of people in the land, but now they're just The land's full of bones. To pass among a desolate land, and there's nothing there. He caused me to pass among them around about, and behold, there were very many on the surface of the valley, and lo, they were very dry. He said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, or he responded and said, only Lord, only you know whether or not they can. Then he says, prophesy to these bones. Bones, hear the word of the Lord. I'm about to run. Bones, hear the word of the Lord. I remember that day, you and I, before we left, we prayed and we said those words facing the north, the south, the east, and the west to Christians who were one time full of the Spirit of God but have drifted away from the Lord and had now become nothing but dry bones, and people of America and the world who've never known the Lord, but they have no spiritual life at all. We spoke to them that day and we said, dry bones, live, live, dry bones, live. And so I'm saying it again. But you know what's so exciting? I'm not the only one that spoke those things. But there are other ministers and preachers who on TV began to preach the same thing. And that was so exciting. But some of them wrote songs. Have you heard it? Listen, if you haven't, hold on to your seat. Oh, we could go on. How many's never heard that song before? Oh, dear Lord. Go on YouTube, look it up. It's called Dry Bones Rattling. It's elevation music. And I just told Kay a while ago, I don't know when their first service is, when they have the gathering. Is it today? I don't know when it is. But I'd give $100 if I could be there. If you go to YouTube and look at this, they have, wow, how could you say it? It's wild. It's radical. But it's enjoyable. David said to his wife, if you want to call her that, I will become even more undignified than this. Freedom. He gave us freedom to worship the Lord. Now, this is not just a song, but it continues when we go into Ezra. So go over there into Ezra, chapter number 4, and I want you to go to somewhere around verse 17. And while you're turning there, what I want to say to you is this. When Haggai prophesied, remember, he said, how can the people that are there, that are now brought back from exile, how can they build their houses and live in panel houses? And my house is still desolate. So please understand that yes, there were those who were building the temple, to laying the foundation, to building up the stones of the temple. They were there to do that. But they had not only the responsibility, now to pay attention, they had not only the responsibility to build the temple and the walls, but they were creating a new society. They were creating a new nation, or rebuilding a new nation. They were rebuilding a society. I'm talking about from the government. They were building a new government. And that government was mandated by God. He set the stage. He set the principles. He put them all in order, and he gave them how to build the government and how they were supposed to live and be a nation of God. So not only were they building a nation and a society, they were building a culture. They were building, check this out, business. They were opening up trade. Does that sound familiar? See how relevant we are and what day we're living in right now? What's happened to us is causing us to have to rebuild things that we took for granted. Business, society, thank God, has retained its credibility, but for some people who are in high governmental offices, they want to continue to keep us indoors, to stop the businesses from reopening. You know what that is, sweetheart? It's socialism, it's control. It's control. That is a Jezebel spirit that has filled America, filled the politicians, guys, and all that they're doing now is fighting to maintain their control. Saying, shut down the government. The doctors say, stay in. And because of all of this, the main motivation is fear. But see, guys, Satan doesn't operate in faith. He operates in fear. We should not disrespect what these professionals say unless God has not, when we'd rather listen to politicians, not professional doctors, not this, not that, that have authority and real knowledge. Listen, you find a doctor that is filled with fear, and he'll tell you certain things that will not be beneficial to your body, to your life. But yet, on the other hand, I can show you doctors who are full of faith. I've mentioned it when we started. A lot of them say wearing a mask is the worst thing that we could do. Put your mask on, though. That's all right. I'm just saying, you can't believe media. You can't believe media because you listen to one, then the next program is somebody else is saying something different. So where is the absolutism here? It's in God. It's in God. And He is still our healer. He's still our keeper. He's still our provider. He is still God, and the government is not. Let us keep our eyes and be sensitive to what they say and not be stupid. But at the same time, these people here are just like us. They had to rebuild something that they lost. For the last month and a half, we've lost some things. But they would, you heard those when the foundation was laid, some cried, but then others rejoiced. It's only those who saw the magnificence of the temple before and how beautiful it was. But that was back then. They lost that because they took God out of the equation and they started letting the Pharisees and the Sadducees make man-made laws that would bind people instead of release people. We're having the same thing here today in our government. Don't ignore it. Please don't allow yourself to be, the old saying is, hoodwinked by a philosophy that's totally leaves God out of its ideology. Got to have God, because when you remove God, you lost it. Your temple, your defense is destroyed. and gone. These children of Israel, not all of them were building the temple. Some of them were in business, providing supplies for the temple. Some were farming. Do you understand? They were rebuilding their culture. But it was a new culture. They had been in foreign lands and were accustomed to 70 years of what was surrounding them. But God brought them out, back to the land that he promised them, back to the home or the house or the land that he told them to come and possess. God brought them back, and now they're here. So it wasn't just the temple they were building a lot of other things as well. But one thing, the Lord spoke to me the other day, and he says, do you understand what the centerpiece of their society was at that time? And it was him, the temple. It was the presence of God. It was the presence of God. It was the presence and the person of God. Their society, their nation, their people, their families, their businesses, everything revolved around them. And you know what? So did the United States of America in its inception. Our government, you can find the directions for government in the Bible. It's there. But somewhere along the line, they've wanted to remove God. And guys, that's how the temple, the Solomon's temple, fell. But now it's time to rebuild, and they're rebuilding. But then you've got those who enjoy control. These also were people who were in exile, but they were taken from other nations and brought into Israel. So they had lived there for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, and they began to feel like this is my land now, this is my property, and I'm not going to give it up. So when they saw these people come back and start building the temple, it sparked something in them. It caused them to stand up and say, we can't let these people come back and do what they're doing. We can't let them build the temple. We can't let them restore the walls. We can't let them build a nation. We can't let them build a society. We can't. We've got to fight for this land. And that's what they began to do. Fight for the land. In one sense of the word, you can't really blame them. But I remind you, they were not God's people. They were people living in God's land. God's people were ordered and instructed, build and rebuild the centerpiece of our society. The centerpiece of society. You heard what they said when they went to see Zerubbabel, right? We're just like you. Let us build with you. And Zerubbabel said, you have no place. You're nothing like us. You're nothing like us. You have no place in this rebuilding of the temple.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope and pray you enjoyed the message. We're actively trying to upgrade our video and audio equipment to provide the best video presentation possible. Just be reminded, we will not have Wednesday night service this week, May 13th, but we plan on meeting next Sunday, May 17th at 10 a.m. We hope to see you then.